Welcome, 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 my friends, to U2 Spain Live. And this week I will be asking our expert residency specialist and friend Chris from Upsticks all about the new rules for residency, which are due to be implemented in May this year, May the 20th, and specifically the ones regarding the non-lucrative visa. There have been some changes, so we will answer your questions all about that and about anything else really. And we have the answers to some frequently asked questions about, it's actually a lot about the withdrawal agreement residency this time. And finally, we'll be having one of our popular arguments about something topical. And Chris has an Upsticks goodie bag to give away, I think, to whoever asks the best question or leaves the best comment. So get writing now. Do that on the live chat, or if you're watching the video back afterwards, do it in the comments below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can, because you are a part of this too. That's what this channel is all about. And you are very welcome to U2 Spain. Run that theme music and let's dance. Yes, indeed. And that is groovy. And speaking of groovy, let's meet my regular fortnightly expert guest. He's my friend and yours. It's Chris from Upsticks. Morning, mate. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. So you're in a different place today. You're broadcasting live on your phone from Fuengirola. What's it like over there?
Yeah, Jim was taking the the long 15-minute journey from our house to the coast just for a couple of days, because it's been, last week was Semana Blanca, which is the kids' half term, which I believe coincides with the Welsh half term, but the English one was before that. And Friday was Dia de Andalucía as well. So we normally the kids are getting older, so it was nice to come down to the coast for a bit, though I had hoped to be sat outside and showing you how gorgeous it was in February, and that didn't really work out.
No, you did a video on Thursday that showed it was absolutely lovely, wasn't it? And then suddenly Friday, big downpour. Yeah, we've got storms for a few days now. It wasn't so bad up here yesterday, but they did all of the celebrations, all of the outdoor stuff was rained off here. So anyway, they're going to do it. They're going to do it next week instead.
Yeah, it was a slightly cheating video. I did see that. I did it as a shorts because I find the shorts quite help the engagement on our channel. But it showed, I knew it was going to get bad the next day, but for some reason we just had this really crazy 24 degrees, and as everybody was in the pool, but the pool was heated, so that's a bit of a cheap video, to be honest. it's a heat out, but it didn't look like a scene from summer. Then the next day it was torrential rain with rivers coming down the road, so it was quite funny.
Yeah, it can happen at this time. And it is good for the reservoirs, though, as long as the rain's not too heavy, because it obviously always washes into the sea.
Yeah. No, we do need it. We do need it. As I say, just sometimes here on the coast where it accumulates, it causes a little bit of flooding. But it wasn't as bad as I probably made out in the shorts. But hopefully it gets a few views.
Yeah. So we're going to have thunderstorms later on today, I think. But there you go. We'll see how we cope with that. Let's see who's on the live chat. Stuart Porter has got a question straight away. He says,
go for it.
After 1 year resident in Spain, I can join the Convenio Especial, the Spanish healthcare system. Is this sufficient healthcare coverage when applying for year 4 and 5 on the NLV?
Yes, it is. The only thing that you'll find is that sometimes to sign on to the Convenio Especial, it could take a while to do so and a while to be approved, which means that normally comes once you've actually done your year's residency. And which means you're going to have to get your second year renewal for your private healthcare to actually apply for your renewal, because it's all going to happen at the same time. Then you've got to be a bit careful of when you apply for the Convenio Especial, because if you get approved, then you start paying straight away. So you've got to try and judge it towards the end of your private healthcare, and so you don't end up paying too much. And undoubtedly, you may end up paying a couple of months where you're paying both. Then cancel that and make sure that the Convenio kicks in. But yes, it is okay for your renewals.
Yeah, and in fact, it's for year 3. Really, you won't have to pay if you time it right. You won't have to pay private for year 3. Great.
Yeah.
So Roger Burke says, good morning to you both from a sunny but very, very cold Torquay. Spring has not arrived here. Sorry about that. But yes, it is the, well, what do they call it? Torquay is the Costa del Sol of Britain or something like that. And good morning from Robbo from a very wet Punta Prima. 7 days of rain forecast here. Yes. Where's Punta Prima? Is he up towards Alicante?
Alicante, yeah.
Yeah. George Wood says we've just got our passports from the consulate with the NLV and are about to head to our villa in Murcia in a motorhome. My question is, can I register my motorhome and not pay import tax and VAT? That's an interesting one.
You can. Now you have to check the technical specifications of the motorhome, because they are quite strict on things like habitation, doors and stuff like that. But yeah, in theory, as long as you've got all your paperwork correctly, you shouldn't have to pay VAT and duty. You apply to customs, and what customs is going to ask you for is well, should ask, actually that's Lara. Lara said it to me. She does all these. I don't do them. So they're going to they ask you for all the proof that you've basically got residency in Spain, so your padron and stuff like that, and then proof of where you've been residing for the last 12 months as well in the UK, just to prove that, and that the vehicle has been your property for more than 6 months. But yeah, you should be able to waive the VAT and duty on that, no problem.
Yeah, good. So get the padron quickly is the solution to that.
Yeah, get your visa registered quite quickly. The unfortunate thing is you very rarely can waive the special registrations tax. That's not VAT and duty. That's emissions-based tax. And for change of residence, they give you a whole year in customs to actually waive the import tax and duty. In fact, Lara's just completed a case where we did one for a guy right at the beginning, and then right towards the back end of the year, when he was coming close to his renewal, he was like, oh, I really want to bring another car. And I was like, well, have you owned it for a year? It's for more than 6 months before you took residency. He was like, yeah. I was like, I think we can still do it. And Lara managed to pull it off. So he had like nearly a 12-month gap right at the beginning, right at the end, of bringing 2 vehicles in tax-free. But the special registrations tax, you only get 60 days, and you have to have the ITV passed, which is virtually impossible if you're on an NLV, because it takes that long to get the TIE card in your hand. They won't let you do the ITV till you've got the TIE. So you always end up paying a bit of special registration tax, unfortunately.
Ah, there you go. Adam Farmelo says, morning all from a finally sunny Wolverhampton. Oh, so you're getting the good weather. I knew there's some somewhere. Mad David is on time for a change. Good morning to you. Paul Cook says good morning. Shirley Rose, morning from Shirley and Paul from Computer. Oh yes, hello Shirley. Yeah, I'll wave out the window. And good morning from Yogi. Oh, wonderful to see you on there. And George says good morning. We have just received our NLV from the consulate in Edinburgh. It took 2 weeks. That's pretty good. Yeah, and thank you, Yogi. Thanks, Yogi, for your donation once again. That's lovely. If anybody wants to make a donation just like that, you go down to down to that bottom corner of the screen. There's a little $sign, and you can pop some money in the pot. That's lovely. Brian in Brisbane says, morning from -3 degrees in Northamptonshire. Eek. Matt David says it's -2 in Derbyshire. You're used to a bit of cold in the Derbyshire Dales, aren't you? But the sun is shining and it's warming up. And Jason's Web, good morning both. What is the look for work visa that's been increased from 3 months to 1 year? Does this not apply to non-EU citizens? That's about the student visa, I think. Do you know anything about that, Chris?
No, I haven't really studied it yet, to be honest. There's quite a few. There's been a lot of this on TikTok, believe it or not. People keep sending me TikTok visas, so I suppose I better pull my finger out and read the article, and then we can do a show on it.
Yeah, from what I can tell, it's not just for general people, it's for people who've got a student visa and they want to stay on afterwards. So it's been increased from 3 months of looking so that you can stay just for 3 months and get a job as quickly as possible. It's been extended to a year, so it gives you more time to sort out, so it would apply to non-EU citizens.
It'd have to be non-EU citizens who are on a visa. So they would never apply to EU citizens because you can dance around as long as do what you like.
Yeah, true. Mike says, morning all. Yogi's got an interesting one. If you were to give one piece of advice to a new applicant of an NLV, what would it be and why? I'll tell you what, we'll get to that in the main feature of the show. And and he says, just so you're aware, Scats and Chris, I'm flying in on the 13th of March. How marvellous. So it's curry night or curry lunch, whatever. Yeah.
Sadly,
definitely.
I won't be here, unfortunately. I have to go back to the UK for a week. We haven't even spoken about that yet because I'm not going to be here in 2 weeks.
Okay then.
So we need to, sorry, Yogi, I know I promised I'd see you, but I've got to go back to the UK for a funeral. So I'm afraid I'm going to be away for a little while. So I'm going to miss you again. We'll have to, it's all just, it's only just happened this week, all the dates and stuff. So I haven't even updated people, but everything at Upsticks will be running as normal, but I'm going to be away that time. Sorry, Yogi.
I'll just have to have your meal as well as mine. I'll have two different ones.
Yeah.
What would you normally have, and I'll have that?
Oh, if it was a curry, what would I normally have? I'm quite partial to lamb sag, to be honest with you. A bit of spinach and a bit of lamb's quite nice.
That's a good idea. Okay, I'll have that, and then a chicken madras to go with it. Just a bit of balance of flavours there. Because the sag it's not that pokey, is it? It's not that hot.
No, not at all. No. Suits my middle-aged belly though. I do like hot stuff. It just doesn't like me.
Fair enough. It's having a front arse is really, really good because doesn't burn on the way out. It's fantastic. There's just no nerves on the end there. Jason says, okay, I'll look out for more info in the future. Yes, yeah. So when we do the talk about the work visa, looking for work. And Nelly says, good morning all. And Tony Brown says, morning from Newcastle. Say hello to Chris. We have a telephone appointment with him on Wednesday. There you go. So he'll be speaking Geordie. Okay, right, let's get on with the main feature of the show. We've been going for 13 minutes already and we've not got on to the main feature. But still, we've answered loads of questions. And so we won't have as many in the Ask Us Anything section, but there you go. Let's get on to the main feature, which looks something like this. It's the main feature of the show. The topic's in the title. Woo! Indeed it is. The topic then is all about the new rules for non-lucrative visa residency. Have there been drastic changes or are they quite subtle ones, Chris?
Well, actually, do you know what? I lost my notes here. 1 second. There we go. I'm back again.
Article 62. Yes.
Here we are, Article 62. Yeah. Now there have been there's subtle changes. Let's be honest. The actual what is the structure of getting a non-lucrative visa is more or less the same. As we mentioned before, I think the biggest hoo-ha from the draft was that they were going to change the periods of the renewal. We're not going to talk about that today, but that didn't happen. That's only been slightly changed. So yeah, it's been subtle changes and wording to what is going to be brought in the 20th of May. So but there have been a few.
Okay then, so we're going to start with the financial requirements, which is Article 62 of the Royal Decree in the Bulletin. And let's get it up on screen. I've got the English translation. My computer automatically translates it like this, but Chris has got the Spanish version, so we will compare if there's any differences in the language. Well, let me get us on the screen as well so we can see. Where are we going? Can't find my cursor. There it is. There we are. Lovely. So yeah, take us through any changes on there.
I mean, the thing is, the first thing is quite a lot. There's a lot of ambiguity in the way that they've written a lot of this. So, as we know, it's first. This is going to apply to every single consulate in the world, and we do know that then the consulates around the world then apply their own interpretation, depending on the document that's available, documents which are available in that country. To how they apply this text. So that's the first thing to be very, very conscious about, because people who are applying in the United States evidently going to be slightly different to people who are applying in the UK, for example. You know, so and then this, what we always find out as well is based on experience. So after the 20th of May, we're going to see how long it's going to take them to actually start applying or asking for different documents, maybe whether they will do at all, because as I said, it could be a case of they just stick to their because this is quite ambiguous what they've written in the law. They could just stick to what they're requesting at the moment, or if they have a complete change in the format that they want things. So, you know, at the moment, for example, in the UK, they don't currently ask for any translations or any notarized documentation when it comes to the financials, but we don't know if they're going to do that in moving forward. Though it doesn't actually mention anything about the verification of documents in the law, so it's all slightly ambiguous, which will all come out in the wash with experience, I'm sure.
Yes, we'll make more programs about that. So
yes, definitely.
Any particular parts of the article that we need to make any more comments on?
Well, so first of all, we've got, if we go, well, just go down through from the top. It does, from 62, number 1 just mentions what we already know, that basically you can't work. Yeah. So, what, now I don't know in English what it actually says there, but
it says foreign persons who wish to reside in Spain without carrying out a work or gainful activity must have sufficient financial means for the period of residence of the authorization, or prove a source of periodic income. So that's passive income.
yeah,
I think, yes, for themselves and, where applicable, their family, in the following amounts, which are established as minimum and refer to the time of applying for the visa or renewal of the authorization.
That's a very important point there to make. First of all, you can read the English better than I can from the screen, but it is established as the minimum. So as we always say, we sometimes get asked, "Oh, what is it exactly I need to show them?" Well, in our view, show them everything. You know, so the more the better. So just showing them the minimum isn't always the best thing. But as we know, the good thing is this year EPREM hasn't gone up. So the amount for a single person is still the 28,800 and 36,000 for a couple. And I see, as it touched on there, it was passive recurring. Oh, it did mention there, I think, as you said, regarding the, it didn't actually say savings, but it did say the amount that was needed. So we understand that, because I've seen a lot on social media at the moment about saying, oh, they're rejecting savings now, they only want passive income. That's not been our experience so far, and I don't think it's going to be with the new law. I think you're going to be able to have either the savings, the passive income as you can now, or a combination of the both. Yes. Now, what you need to do is always make sure that if you are quite tight to the EPREM, then is when you present it, you offer them an explanation in the form of a letter, maybe explaining exactly what they're looking at. Because sometimes if you don't explain, and I have this an awful lot with the renewals as well, where somebody will send me some renewals documents and I look at the income coming into the account, I think, oof, that might not meet it. And then once you've added it up and you've done the conversion to euros, it turns out that it's enough, you know, so it's definitely worth providing them with that.
Mm-hmm. I'll just pop into the
So
comments just in the middle of what you're saying. Just
yeah,
El
go for it.
Davido, morning from a wet Camposol, that's in Murcia, absolutely piddling it down. And a quick one from me too. I'm on my first year NLV. Can I use my TIE card instead of my passport when travelling back to Spain from the UK? Or should I get my passport stamped? Well, you will need your passport as well,
Mhm.
because that's your official ID. But the TIE card should, in theory, stop the need for having your passport stamped. And especially when the new EES system comes out, then that should mean that no passports are stamped anymore. Does that cover it?
But yeah, the problem you have with that though is that you need the passport stamps to prove. This is the problem we have with the renewals to prove the amount of days you've been in the country. Now we know that's not going to happen once the EES goes in, and the only way to get your passport stamped is to not actually show your TIE card.
Ah,
So there you go. So this is the problem. So you've got to make sure that you get your passport when you are in an NLV. Make sure you keep all proof of travel. So that means bookings, and I know sometimes you can only get QR codes for your boarding passes, but we heavily advise that you keep the PDF versions as well. And when you're coming through control, the biggest problem we have is if you show your TIE card, you don't get a stamp. And some people have irregular stamps where they'll decide to stamp them on the way in, so or not stamp them on the way out. So the best way to do it is not actually show your card unless asked for it.
yes. I wonder if in the future, once the EES is up and running, that the the national police will have access to that information, so that they won't need the stamps anymore.
You would imagine they'd have it also now. You know, it is
Mm.
frontiers, it is fronteras. So the people who immigration frontiers, it's the same, should we say, department, but whether they actually bother to check is a different thing. You know, we've
Yeah.
had it where we've had requirement letters for proof of travel because stamps haven't matched up. So we know whatever happens, they definitely check the full copy of the passport that you provide in for renewal. And a lot of the time we've preempted it with missing stamps by providing a letter. I had a client the other day who provided us with an Excel, which we turned into a letter, and also explained the two missing stamps using proof of the travel, and the renewal was approved on that. So, you know,
Hmm.
if you are missing a stamp, it doesn't mean it's the game over, but you may be asked for further proof of the travel to make sure that you're keeping within the days that you're allowed out of Spain. And obviously, this is prevalent to your permanent residency right at the end because you need to prove that you haven't been out for more than 10 months.
Aha. Great. Just a quick one from Mark. Good morning from a very wet Entre Naranjos. What does that mean? In between the in between the oranges. Very nice.
Yeah.
Lisa Hibbert says good morning to you both. Good to see you back, Chris. And Me Too is also asking, do you get taxed in Spain for interest I get from savings account in the UK? That's yes. Any interest from any savings you would. And if so, how much tax do you pay? Come back and ask that one next week because we have Lucia Melgarejo, our financial advisor, regular guest, and she'll be able to answer all of your tax questions because we're not really qualified to answer those. There you go. Okay, so carry on, Chris, on financial means.
Yeah, so if you look down, they get into the descriptions of things that you're allowed to use.
Hmm.
And the first thing is, I'm not too sure. I can't see it in English. I can only read it in Spanish.
Hmm.
But
Which one? Which bit do you need?
I'm looking at point
N-
2 onwards.
Okay, so point 2 is in the case as provided for in letters A and B of the previous section, which is the 400% EPREM and how much you need for family members. The total amount of financial means must involve the provision of a monthly amount calculated on the basis of the provisions of the previous section in relation to the period of validity of the requested authorization. So, what does that mean in
Yeah.
real English?
In Spanish, it pretty much reads the same. So our understanding of that is that if the obviously the savings that you have must meet the total of the monthly amount, or you must have the monthly passive income coming into the account. Now, the reason I mentioned savings again is if we jump to section A, where 3A, where it says, sorry, if we go into section 3, I don't think you read that out, did you?
Not yet.
Did
No,
you read that section?
Yeah, that
Read out
says
section.
the whole of section 3 says availability
Yeah.
may be proven by any means of proof admitted by law, including the provision of title deeds, certified checks or credit cards. We're still talking about checks, which must be accompanied by a bank certification proving the amount available as credit on the aforementioned card. In the case of submitting information related to accounts or financial instruments abroad, this must include A, the corporate name or full name of the banking or credit institution, as well as its address. B, complete identification of the accounts. C, the date of opening or cancellation, or where applicable, the dates of granting and revocation of the authorization. And finally, D, the account balances as of December 31st of the year prior to the submission of the application, and the average balance for the last year. That's quite a lot of information.
It is, and how this all relates to stuff which you can actually get in Spain but doesn't exist in other countries. And this is the constant battle that we have, because you try basically, Spain always relate back to, you know, what they know, the documentation which is available here. So everything which is said on that list there, you can pretty much get in one shape or form in a Spanish bank. But I bet you can't get a lot of it from Barclays, which is the problem that we have. Now, the first thing to comment there was which is, we'll send the internet mad, but the use of credit cards. Now, believe it or not, it does say that in the previous law for the renewals anyway. I know that they just mentioned the use of credit. Luckily, we normally don't have to go down that route, because most of the clients that we have planned accordingly and got the actual, the cash, should we say. But the fact that they're citing that you can use credit cards, but you would need a certificate from your bank to prove what the credit was available. Well, credit available would certainly be considered a saving, wouldn't it? You know, it's cash asset which is available. It's not creating a passive income, is it?
No.
So I'd be very dubious about trying to use credit cards for an NLV. Not only if it was a means to an end to get the first one over the line while you're waiting for further funding for the renewal, but certainly if you got it over the line for the first time, then I think it'll be quite hard to use it for the second time, especially if that credit card is not held in a Spanish entity and is held abroad. You know, so for your renewal, it could be, even if you manage to use one for your initial visa, for your renewal, it could be quite difficult. And then in terms of the what they're talking about, basically the bank statements here, it's increasingly harder, and as we know, to get any sort of bank statements verified from the UK. So when I say verified, I mean stamped or anything like that. Now, currently, in the last 18 months, we've had a lot of success with just online printed bank statements, as long as they are the full statements. Yeah, so it can't look like anything you've knocked up on Google Docs yourself. When I say about the full statements, is what they send you in a PDF format, which has the bank's logo and everything they mentioned there. So basically, the identity, when they say razón social, it's the bank's business details, basically. I don't know how that translated on the English one there, but they have to be full statements. Now, something that we do with the renewals, which when you go down to section D, and they're talking about the having a saldo medio, which is the average, again, section D, they mention an average balance. The UK just don't do average balance certificates, do they? So,
No.
you know, you just don't get them. So, but what you can do is most UK accounts have a start and end date balance on the first page. So what we do for the renewals, if people are using just cash assets and savings in a UK bank, is we request 12 months of statements, and quite often what we'll do is just translate the first 3 months, which just won't be required for initial application, proving that that money's been there, and then submit the full 12 months saying that you didn't translate the full 12 months because there's no point, because it's repeated information. That normally works for us. So I'd definitely say that if you've held funds in a bank for 12 months and you want to use those funds to apply for the NLV, then it looks like they're going to, now they normally ask for 6 months, it looks like taking a full year would be a good idea, because that will show the average balance over that year.
Aha, yes, that makes a difference. There's the final paragraph there is, if the financial means come from shares or interests in Spain, mixed or foreign companies based in Spain, the interested party will prove by means of certification from the same that he or she does not carry out any work, activity in said companies, and will present a responsible declaration to that effect. I suppose that's the same as it used to be, is it?
Yeah, that's pretty much the same. I mean, it'd be very rare that we'll have anybody that has interest in a Spanish company, and is deriving shares from a Spanish company. Though we do have, and it doesn't really mention or touch on it here, a lot of people who have UK companies and want to take dividends rather than being employed by the company. And when you're looking at those kind of structures, you have to be a bit careful in the actual structure of the company. So if you've got a limited company, you're a director and it's got no employees, and you're the only director, and you want to take dividends from that company, it's quite blatantly obvious that you're working in that company, albeit you could create that setup. Whereas if it's like 2 directors, 50 workers, and you're actually retiring and just going to enjoy what you've built, then that's a more a stable way of providing proof that you've got passive income from a company, rather than what I previously mentioned.
If you're a sleeping partner or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just
Because you could be asked.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at the live chat. Mike Ripper said, my wife has settled status in the UK. When she renewed her passport in Bilbao, it flagged up straight away with UK border control when we re-entered the UK. That's good to know. And he also says, I guess that Spanish border control will have similar information. You would think so. They do swap information, don't they, between border controls?
Yeah.
Me Too says the date of expiring. Oh yes, this is an easy one. Date of expiry of my TIE card is 1st of September 2025. When's the earliest on it I can apply for first renewal?
2 months before. Now, this is an interesting question, because it used to be, and the new law would have kicked in by then. It used to be 60 days before and 90 days afterwards, and the new law now states it's 2 months before and 3 months afterwards. So the 1st of September would be 1st of July is the earliest that you'll be able to start your application.
So it's probably only a day difference from what it used to be, but could be important. Keep Smiling says, good morning to you both. I submitted a renewal 6 weeks ago using Currency Direct account, and now really worried because people have said they don't accept this account. Yes.
So they do. I don't know what the renewal entails. If it's passive income you've got going through Currencies Direct, which you're then using to obviously spend in Spain. But if you were using Currencies Direct, I'd imagine that if it's savings which is just held in Currencies Direct, I don't know. Most of the time, people that we use Currencies Direct quite a bit, actually, for a lot of our clients, but it's mainly just to move money from one place to another. And when we use the statements to prove the origin of the funds, not the actual funds themselves. So, I wouldn't worry too much, because normally they would come back to you and ask you to prove. If they don't accept the Currencies Direct, they'll just give you a letter of requerimiento, which is just a requirement letter, which then say prove that you have the funds to support yourself. They don't actually say, unfortunately, they have not accepted your documents. You make that assumption when you get that letter. Then at that point, I would say it'd be advisable to move those funds into a Spanish bank account and explain that because they didn't accept the original documents, we've now moved it to a Spanish account. and you can get verifying documents from the account, which we know they will accept.
Normally with currency exchange companies, you've got proof in the bank in the UK, and you've got proof in the bank in Spain of what's coming in and going out as well. So that would only be the case, I guess, if they are holding on to some money for you, for example, to buy a house that's not completed yet, or something like that. That's what strikes me. Shirley Rose says, can you use a Chase account with full statements on PDF, or do you have to use a UK bank, for example, the Halifax? Is that an American one, Chase?
It's more of an investment platform as well, isn't it, Chase?
Okay.
I think we've used Chase before for the initial application. Might be slightly tougher again for the renewal, but yeah, I believe we've used Chase before for the initial application. Now, what you got to remember is, and they slightly touch on it in this text, is that if you are using savings and only savings and have no passive income, you have to be able to prove the accessibility for the money that you're going to need to live on. Yeah, so I have this a lot with people who just want to use one ISA account and that's it. But the ISA account is tied up for a year. And I'm like, that's absolutely fine. The ISA account meets the minimum required amount, but it still doesn't prove the funds that you've got in the bank to live on when you're in Spain. So you've still got to be able to prove that you've got accessible cash to fund your life, and this is why as well, if you remember, they mentioned there about properties. Now the properties that they mentioned, they don't say that if the property is in the UK or Spain. It's not in the UK, the property is in Spain. So you can, if you've got a property in Spain, prove you've got a property in Spain, but they don't explain the percentage of the value of that property that they're going to take on board in relation to the EPREM. But we believe it's a good idea to present the property, because that is also becomes part and encompasses how much money you're going to actually need to live on in Spain. So if you've got a property paid for and you can prove that it's mortgage free using a notice simply, then evidently the person who's assessing your case sees that you've got no rental or mortgage liabilities when you move to Spain, which is a big chunky monthly outgoings, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. Ian Wilkie says, Chris, you mentioned translations of bank statements. What are they wanting translated? Figures are figures. As we are about to start our 4 to 5 renewal, will this apply this time?
Good question, Ian. Yeah, it's my constant battle, and I often, you try not to look stupid in front of clients, because they're like, "Hey, how do you translate a number?" Well, you can't, can you? Unfortunately, for renewals, any documentation that is presented has to be translated by a legal translator registered in Spain, and that includes anything like a bank statement, or whoever does the assessment on your financials will tell you, right, okay, this is the best way to prove that you have the financial stability and for your renewal, and then make an assessment on what translations are needed. For the initial application at the consulate, at the BLS and then the consulate's assessment, at the moment in the UK, they don't require translations of the financials. That changed a couple of years ago, where they decided, no, we don't need them at the moment. But for renewals, definitely, which again is ridiculous. So as I said before, we often, if it's stable savings for an account, we'll often take the first page. I'm using Barclays as an example because they actually have quite nice statements which show the start and end balance of each month, and we would take 12 months, which proves the average balance, write a letter explaining exactly the average balance, and then we would actually only translate the last 3 initially, because it's repeated information, and offer in the letter an explanation as to why we've only translated 3. In some cases, so we had a case recently that normally does the trick, but we had a case recently where they came back to us in Malaga. They went, no, we want the full 12 months bank statements translating. So we just had to go back, translate the 9 months we were missing, and then go back to them, and we got the approval. So yeah, it really, what needs translating depends on who's assessing your income and the files and their experience in the province where you are as to what's needed. But everything that's presented would need translating.
Great. Me Too says, I didn't need a padrón to apply for my TIE, but used an Airbnb's address on the form. as I apply for renewal, can I use my old TIE showing a different address than my padron?
Yeah, good question. The now for the initial application in some provinces, they're very flexible on the use of a padron. Jane, my colleague, will probably kill me for saying this now on YouTube. So she always prefers that everybody's got a padron because it is by far the easiest way if you're not going to get, if you don't want any questions asked. For places like Malaga and Alicante and now certain offices in Murcia, if it's your initial application, they're quite flexible in their understanding that you've only got 30 days to register, your TIE card when you get your visa. And if you haven't got a padron, for the first, they call it concesión de tarjeta, the first card application, and they'll let you off and just use the address that you provide on the form, as long as that address matches up with a province where you initially applied at the consulate. When you come to renewal, it's slightly different. If you want to change your address, then you have to have a padron. And quite often, even people who haven't changed their address but didn't use one at the beginning, we've had the extranjerías, the comisarias, ask the person behind the desk, ask for a padron just to confirm that address as well. So for renewal, if there's any sort of change of address, you definitely need a padron. For the first concesión, as Me Too said, then sometimes you can get away with not having one.
Great stuff. Yogi says, make sure you smash that like button and support the channel. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And also subscribe if you haven't already. And he also asks, Chris, most bank statements in the UK have moved to electronic, online, e-banking. Is an electronic bank statement acceptable?
Yeah, if it's printed now, we have so far this last 18 months had a lot of success with the printed electronic statements. This is a crazy thing. We always say make sure you print them out in colour, not black and white. For some reason they like them in colour. But it has to be a full style statement, so the equivalent of what you used to get in the post, shall we say, which most banks provide you with. So people like NatWest, for example, I was recently on one of their platforms helping somebody download, and I noticed that they had like a summary, which when you download it looks like it's been done in an Excel sheet, doesn't give full information, so really wouldn't be good. But then they did have the downloadable PDFs at the bottom, which is exactly the same as what they would post you out if you requested them, and they would normally work fine.
Yeah, great stuff. Jason says property owned proof is part of my strategy for the NLV. Great stuff. Brilliant. And Matt David says, can you recommend a Spanish bank to open an account in? I always say it's not the bank, it's the bank manager that you need to choose. Go and shop around and see what deal you're offered, because it's not always the same as what they might advertise. The manager is able to give you offers, really.
Yeah, your town, as we know, it's very, very dependent. At times, it can be quite old school. Whereas if you've got a good branch, so for example, in Alarín de la Torre, we have a really good Sabadell branch. Which we bank with because the director's brilliant and the people who work behind the counter are brilliant, and they facilitate a lot of things for their clients. Whereas I've heard horror stories from other Sabadells, so it really do. In fact, I spoke to one the other day. He was probably the rudest bank teller I've ever spoken to, who insisted they couldn't give me a document that I've seen quite possibly 100 of. So as you say, it depends, doesn't it, very much on where you're moving to and your local branches.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you look on Facebook, there'll be somebody decrying every single bank that there is, and it's all about the manager. Check them out. And Ian Wilkie says he's got his statements downloaded and ready for translation prior to our start of the last one. Great stuff. And Me Too says, sorry, you didn't say if I can use my old TIE showing a different address than my padron. I think the point was use the padron. That's the proof of address.
Yeah.
And
make sure your application. So yes, you can take your old TIE card. Once you get your I'm not too sure if we're talking about pre-approval or post-approval. So when you make the application, the initial application for the approval, it's always best if you've changed addresses to fill out the application forms that have been online on Mercurio using your new address and submit a Padron certificate just to prove that. And then when you come to change your TIE card, once you've got your approval, also take the Padron to that appointment. I would submit it on both fronts.
Brilliant. Yogi says, I've never met a bank manager in the UK for many years. Yeah, that was true back in, we moved over to Ireland in 2013, and they'd already started getting rid of personal meetings to bank managers. Fortunately, we had a bank in Ireland, more like a cooperative bank thing, a local one where you could actually meet your manager. So that was good. And what we might do on this show is we might not have time for the argument at the end, because we've already talked a lot and we've already been answering, because there's lots of questions coming through as well. So just in case we don't get to the argument, the main feature is the important bit, and answering your questions is another important bit. We might do the frequently asked questions about the withdrawal agreements, but if we don't get to that, we will do another show about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's carry on with the non-lucrative visa residency. Where should we go to on the next point? Which article are we looking at?
Now we're looking at the criminal records. I think we were going to. There was not a lot of change in what they mentioned about healthcare. You just have to prove you've got public or private healthcare for the time that you want to get the visa. And hopefully that will stay the same. As now you can prepay a post-dated policy, which is, as long as you've got the proof that that's all going to be in place for the time that you want to enter Spain, it doesn't have to have started at the time of the appointment, which is the most common mistake that people make when it comes to the healthcare. So what I mean by that is, if you were going for your appointment tomorrow but didn't want to come into Spain until May, then some companies will let you pay 2 months in advance, start the policy in May, take the proof you've paid it, take your certificate, and that'll be absolutely fine. But the consulate does take that into account in terms of timing, the timing when they're going to give you the visa as well. So, you just have to judge. If you're looking to come in sooner, it's probably better to start your healthcare sooner, albeit you run the risk of probably wasting some while you're waiting for your visa.
And which article are we on? I've just gone on to 61, and that's not the correct.
We are. Let me open this up again now. There was the article regarding the criminal records, which we were looking. Give me 1 second, and I'll find it. Have I highlighted it really, wouldn't it?
Oh, is it 63?
63, yeah.
That's the one. Found it. And it's not the whole of that. It's number 3 of 63.
If you read out the whole of number 3, it's quite interesting what they say about the existence of a criminal record. Yeah, I'll let you read that out in English, because I can't really see it on the screen, I'm afraid.
Okay, so in order to assess the requirement established in Article 61.2d, the Immigration Office will automatically obtain a report from the Central Register of Convicted Persons to verify the absence of criminal records in Spain, and will obtain a police report on the applicant. These reports will be issued within 7 days. So this is about the Spanish one.
And then the next one.
The existence of a criminal record in the police report will not in itself and automatically constitute grounds for denying the authorization. In this case, the competent body will assess on a case-by-case and detailed basis that the foreign person does not pose a threat to public order, internal security, public health, or the international relations of any of the member states of the European Union. Okay.
Well, this is quite big. So what are they saying here? They're saying that if you've got a criminal record, you can get an non-lucrative visa, because, this is definitely open to interpretation. But let's just explain what they mean by the 7-day thing. that they mentioned there, and what needs to be presented in the UK. So if we're talking about UK applicants now, because that's, in other parts of the world, evidently you'll have your corresponding criminal records check. But in the UK, you'll actually have 2 criminal record checks done on you. So you have to present an ACRO criminal record check at your application, unless you've lived outside the UK in the previous 5 years leading up to the application, and you have to also present that criminal record from that country as well. So if you've only lived in the UK for 3 years and been resident in Australia, for example, 2 years previous to that, you'd also have to provide an Australian criminal records check. So and then once all your documents are submitted, that criminal record is assessed by the consulate. They then send your details to the Spanish immigration authorities, who do their own checks. Now, we know that they check because we've seen requirement letters come back asking things from these different administrative bodies. So we know they check in with the tax office to make sure you've got no debt here. They know you check in with the Social Security to make sure you've got no work history, or anything in Spain. And we know they also check the criminal records in Spain to make sure that you haven't got anything pending in Spain. So at that point, you've already proven using your criminal record from the country of origin that you haven't got a criminal record, the ACRO, let's call it, and Spain have given you the all clear that you haven't got one in Spain. But the line which is quite interesting is because we know in the UK at the moment, anybody who has no trace or no live trace doesn't get asked any questions in London and Edinburgh, but no live trace in Manchester, they always require an explanation as to what the live trace relates to. So, i.e., why does it say no live trace? Because it means that there has been a previous criminal record noted on your ACRO, and you have to give them an explanation to that. So far, we haven't had any problems with people who've offered an explanation getting a visa. They haven't been denied because they did something in the past which generated that no live trace. But it looks like they could be slightly more flexible, because they said, the existence of a criminal record, and they're talking now about the Spanish side of things, but will this translate to the UK side of things as well? Because there is some ridiculous criminal records that may be from the 80s and stuff, which are a lot longer than the 5 years that they initially asked for, that we've seen people have problems with. So I would say that when this kicks in, the best way to preempt any problems was if you have got a criminal record that you believe wouldn't warrant that you're a cause to the public order, or you've got a no live trace, is to, when you present your application, offer an explanation of that directly. I think that'd be best.
Right. Yeah. Anything else on there that is relevant or has changed?
Not really. Just it's slightly more. It looks like it's going to be slightly more flexible for people who might have minor criminal records which aren't going to be a threat to public order.
Okay.
Now, and we have already seen. I wonder if Manchester already are sort of applying and gearing themselves up for this, because I say they do request further information for people with no live trace.
I wonder why it's Manchester in particular. Are they more violent up there?
Manchester just like to complicate life. It's just like, oh dear me, 14-week visas, no explanation. You can't contact them. They're a nightmare there at the moment.
So it must be. I'd put that down to the management of the BLS office.
Definitely something going on there at the consulate, because not management. I don't think it's BLS. I think it's consulate, because the demographic of visas which are being issued. So, like we had my last weekly update, we had, I think it was 4 Alicantes got issued, and they were all between 60 and 90 days, apart from Manchester, but all going to the same province. So, I think there's definitely something that's a backlog there, or some reason why it's not working that fast in Manchester.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the next article we need to go on to? I've only got those 2 things mentioned. So we've had financial requirements.
Yeah, financial requirements, criminal records, and I think we mentioned the healthcare. There's no real change there at all.
We've done renewals on a different program.
So I think that was all we were going to mention today, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. temporary residence. Yeah, so that's family reunification. One day we'll do all the arraigos, all the unusual ones, because I'm confused by all of
Oh
that
yeah, we
lot.
definitely got to bring them out. Well, what we'll do is we'll defrag them like we have this, put it into English, and go through them because the Aragos look quite exciting. To be honest with you, some of them.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay then. So that's that off the screen. So, well, we do have time then for uh, any more questions. Let's have a look, see what's in the live chat. Paul Cook says, when I do NLV, I'll put 60k in my Spain bank. I think Chris said that is better. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. El Davido's got one which is which is funny if it wasn't sort of petty from the point of view of the residency card people. It says, check your title. It is a good point. Check your title. Check all of your details, in fact, when you get your residency card. In error, they had me down as Mrs. So now they won't do my prostate blood test. Although I still get the meds, thankfully. But they did request I go for a mammogram. That's brilliant. Paul Cook says, I'm sure Chris said NLV funds are better in the Spain bank, so I intend to have 60k there to cover application and renewals. Well, certainly that would mean you wouldn't need any translations, which is going to save you money.
Yeah, certainly for the renewals, for the initial application, you've got it in Spain. That's great. Just make sure you can get the statements up to date for when you go to your initial application. Sometimes we recently had a case where a client was traveling to Spain before they made their application, had the funds in a Spanish bank, and actually went to their bank, got the actual balance certificate, which you can sometimes download online anyway with digital code, which is great. They got updated bank statements and actually had them stamped by the bank. And then there was about a 3 or 4 week gap before their appointment, and they just downloaded the rest from the website to prove what the gap was, and that was sufficient for the consulate. So.
You're right. Paul also says, I won't have enough passive income. Fair enough. If you've got that much savings, I'm sure that'll be okay. Shirley Rose says, can you go to any UK consulate for your NLV? That's a good question. We've not answered that one for quite a while.
You have to go to the consulate which corresponds to where you live, basically. So they divide the UK up into 3 sections, and so you can't go, unfortunately, if you're in Manchester. I have this quite a lot, obviously, because there's a lot of bad press in Manchester at the moment. People need to go to London, but no, you have to go which the consulate corresponds to your region.
And it's the BLS office now that you do
BLS.
Yeah. So, and Chris and I on respective websites both have an article all about that. So if you do the search feature on there for the blog articles, you will find a where do I go for my visa application. And yes, we've both got articles with the maps. In fact, I pinched the maps from Chris's website, so it's identical. It's
I have them on the wall. I have them on the wall in the office.
That's handy. Yeah.
Because honestly, when I'm having my conversations on Wednesdays with potential clients that are coming on board, I can't always remember where they are, because the north of England is, and if you look at the north of England and the Midlands, the bit that corresponds to Manchester is quite crazy, because things like Northamptonshire, where you can get to London quicker, correspond to Manchester, and then there's areas in the north of England like Newcastle which correspond to Edinburgh. So I always have to check. But when I'm talking to people, I'm walking around looking at them all, checking.
Yeah, absolutely. It is interesting. From Northern Ireland, you have to come across and go to Edinburgh, don't you? And Manchester doesn't go all the way up to the Scottish border.
No. Like the north of England corresponds to Edinburgh.
Yeah, and I think Northamptonshire or Cambridgeshire. Is Cambridgeshire? Is that for London?
Cambridgeshire's London, but Lincolnshire. So if you're in Peterborough, you'll be going to London, and if you're in Stamford, you'll be going to Manchester. And there's only like a 10-mile difference.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. So, Paul Cook says, I hope Manchester improves in a couple of years when I need to do mine. There you go, yes. And Me Too says, renewing my years 2 and 3 of the NLV soon and intend to apply for self-employment visa. Okay, what happens if with my NLV if I get denied self-employment visa, and what if it's improved? Well, I would apply for your years 2 and 3 of your NLV as well,
Yeah.
just in case.
Or get that in first and then apply for your self-employment. It shouldn't affect your statement, your status as an NLV.
Yeah, because it can take a while for your self-employment visa to response to come through, I think. Yeah. Jason says, plan to buy property, have 60 to 65k in the bank, not touched for 5 years, and money to live off for the 5 years. Then once resident, live off the 65k plus state pension. Sounds
Yeah, I mean,
good.
65. If you're a single applicant, then 65k in euros is fine, as long as you can prove that you've got money to spend. You know, if you've got a property, a lot of people do that. They'll just have the funds. I mean, the problem is obviously a lump sum in a Spanish current account isn't earning you interest, and you know, an economist will tell you that it's been eroded by inflation, but it quite is the easiest way to, you know, if you just go to the bank, download, get your statements, and it shows you how much you've got in the bank. It shows if you've been spending through that account, you know, how you're living your life, and the proof that you've got a property, and you know, jobs are good, and that is quite the easiest way. But evidently, not everybody wants to leave. This is always the conundrum that we have with people: is they're like, yeah, but if I leave that money in there, it's not earning me any interest or anything like that. And Spanish banks are not particularly good at having decent savings accounts.
No, I mean, if you could invest, it's like 25k minimum. Do that in some safe shares. If you talk to a financial expert, they might be able to sort that out for you. But of course, you're always taking a little risk by doing that. But there are almost risk-free where you can earn, I don't know, for 3 or 4% on your money. Of course, you've got to pay some tax on that. But yes, anyway. So Shirley Rose says, Manchester for us then. And Tony Brown says, hi Chris, on average, what's the NLV turnaround in Edinburgh?
We just had one through in 6 weeks. Between you mentioned 2 weeks there, which is very quick, but normally it's 4 to 8 weeks in Edinburgh at the moment.
Somebody the other day said, I think I told you about this. Somebody said 3 days. I can't remember which BLS office it was.
London, I think that was.
Yeah, just doesn't seem possible, because it's got to go via the consulate and then into Spain to check and then back again, has it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't see how physically 3 days is possible. Though 5 has been done. You know, it depends, and we know that it's done digitally. So your criminal records check is done digitally. If the person had an NIE number, it's quite possible that the consulate applied on the first day that they received the documentation to Spain, and the Spain immigration got straight back to them and said there's no criminal records here. That's fine. You know, so I suppose, you know, and if they issued the visa on that basis on the same day and sent it out a 24-hour courier, could be possible. I suppose they'd have no reason to lie, would they?
No, you wouldn't think so, no. Just before we continue, we'll go on to the frequently asked questions. You may have noticed there's a QR code in the corner there. And if you've learnt something of value to you today, or you've been entertained, then click on the like button, subscribe, and use that QR code in the corner to help us help you. If everyone puts their cost of a cup of coffee or 3 into the pot, then the electricity keeps working, and I keep smiling because I run on electricity. That's my new catchphrase. And also, I'm saving up for a camera so that I can go out and about and bring you some fantastic videos of lots of places and inspire you about different parts of Spain, which may be off the beaten track. So that's going to fund that, so that you can have some even more exciting videos going on. So, shall we get...
I don't know. Did I tell you about the wait for the cameras for the DJI Pocket Osmos?
Are they taking a while then?
Yeah, I was looking the other day because I was thinking, you know, that'd be good. And we need to get on. Unfortunately, due to circumstance, we haven't been able to meet and get together yet. But I was looking, I was like, it'd be great if we could get one of those, and they're not coming till April. I don't know what. I spoke to a friend of mine
Yeah.
who's big on this kind of thing in the UK, and he said just wait. He said don't put pre-order in, because once they get them, you'll see that even from the UK and Spain at the moment, they're not available for 6 weeks.
Where is that, on Amazon or somewhere else?
Amazon, and on their website, I went directly to the DJI website as well, and they said no, you can't get it. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why, but
Okay, I'll keep my eye on that. I think I've
yeah,
got
keep an eye out
some
on it, 'cause
kind
I
of
keep forgetting. But
yeah. We shall have a look. I'd like to do an unboxing video, but I think so many people have got them, and it's really, really popular that there's probably so many videos out there, and they won't give one away for free to absolutely everybody. So you never know. Maybe get somebody from there on the show, and get some kind of discount. I'll find a way. And Mad David is saying adios. Always a pleasure, guys, because we have gone over the hour now. Keep Smiling says, what's the turnaround for renewals in Alicante? That's been bad in the past, hasn't it?
yeah, piece of string really. Anything up to 90 days after expiry, which is, I've just had a message from a client the other day actually, and I'm going to do a video on this, because more and more are having problems because they don't give you, even if you submit it a month before. And we started contacting people now 3 months before expiry to get our ducks in a row early. They could still come out towards the back end of the expiry period, which is the 90 days. And that also generates problems for people with their banks, unfortunately. The Spanish banks, after the card's been expired for a month, start limiting the operations in the bank. And I've written countless letters now to banks going, they're in their legal right to be in the renewal period, and here's the proof it's been renewed. So and this can be managed at a local level, so it reiterates getting a decent bank manager.
Brilliant. Actually, we will do the Ask Us Anything jingle, because I do have a comment that was on the live chat a few weeks ago, I think, which is interesting and deserves an answer. So let's go on to that, and here's the jingle. Ask us anything you like, as long as it's to do with moving to Spain or living here. Thank you. Yes, thank you. And so it was John Carrington. He was saying that he'd been advised by the Citizens Advice Bureau Spain that joint nationals like himself and me, UK and Irish passport holders, can have a green EU card and a TIE, and that he won't legally need to carry his Irish passport. Now, this is something I'm a bit dubious about, because how can you be registered as an EU resident and a non-EU resident at the same time? That doesn't make sense to me. And why would you want to be anything other than Irish? That's my point. Just so you didn't have to carry around your actual passport. So what's your take on that?
No, that's wrong. I think that's a misunderstanding. I'm very, very surprised if Citizens Advice Bureau told anybody that. That's they're normally probably not comment on them, but their advice is it's okay. It's good. It's always very good.
He trusted this particular person, and he said she's never been wrong before. So
I think it might be a misinterpretation of what they're telling you. Now, from reading between the lines, what I think is that quite possibly you have a green EU style card using your British passport from a pre-Brexit date, and you may have now got a Irish passport, in which you can either exchange your green card using your British passport for a TIE card, which would declare your right within the withdrawal agreement, or you could actually switch to your Irish card and become an EU resident, but you certainly couldn't have both. Right, so not together. I think that may be where the confusion is. And also, just don't forget that the TIE card, albeit is photo identification, is only valid if you have a valid passport as well. So you need to make sure that your passport is always in date and valid, because that is your national identity document issued by your country of nationality. So So yeah, I think there's been a misinterpretation of the information there.
It does. I think I remember right, because he does write in occasionally in comments, especially on Facebook and things like that. So I think he has been in Spain a while. So maybe that is the case. Maybe he's a withdrawal agreement resident with the floppy green card, and has got his Irish passport since that. So yes.
I know on a couple of occasions I've had conversations with people who citizens advice had quite rightly told them that the green card is still valid proof that you are a beneficiary of the withdrawal agreement, which I personally think isn't the best advice. I think it's get it switched to a TIE card as quickly as possible, even now, 5 years down the line. And I was quite an advocate and quite adamant that that's the best thing to do. Forget it. The green cards are gone now for British citizens, so you need to do it. Well, I know that they continue to advise, albeit you don't have to do it right now. It is still your proof. I'm thinking not the best advice, to be honest, but
Yeah.
that may be where the confusion is.
Yes, indeed. So just before we move on to the frequently asked questions, which are actually about the withdrawal agreement anyway, so that fits in nicely. Just a quick plug for some other friends before we continue. We've talked about currency exchange, and I've told you all before about the brilliant advantages so many times. So all I'm going to say for today is this: use the ones I recommend. I know Chris recommends somebody else, and everybody has their own favourites, but I say use Smart Currency Exchange. And if you use the link in the comments and the video description below, as well as getting a free account and free advice in your own very lovely personal broker, who I'm going to have one of them back on the show fairly soon, I think March the 22nd. And if you use that link, you'll actually be helping U2 Spain as well at no extra cost to you. It's a win-win-win with a cherry on top. I haven't put any of these little things up on the screen yet, have I? There we go. And it doesn't depend, but everything else on the show we've talked to so far depends on something. So there you go. Let's have the FAQs, and it goes like this. Oh, where's it gone? Doesn't exist. All right, forget about that then. That jingle has completely disappeared. So let's get on to the... That's good. Oh no, what is it called? FAQs, just for you. But some of them might not be so frequent. That's what I normally do. So here we have 3 FAQs. So the situation for first one is this. So let's say I've been out of Spain for 4 years as a withdrawal agreement resident. I've got my TIE card. I never signed off. Can I still use it? So the question is, what can you do? What should you do? And what might you get away with? So it's kind of 3 separate things, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So, in theory, no, because you're not allowed outside of Spain during a temporary residency period for more than 6 months. But in practice, and we've seen it a lot, people have managed to just come back in because they're still registered on the system. And we recently had one where somebody had a green card. They then changed that for a TIE. They then spent more than the allowed time outside of Spain, came back, and the TIE card hadn't expired because they got it after Brexit during the exchange. The 5 years of that TIE card hadn't, but their green card period meant that they were eligible for permanent residency. And we submitted it, and they managed to get a permanent residency card, and they didn't ask anything about where they'd been. In fact, they only asked for Padron to update the address. So yeah, in theory, no. In practice, a lot of people are just coming back and using it. As long as they haven't been struck off the immigration system, then they're getting away with it, basically.
Ah, brilliant. Sorry, I just had to change my earpods then. And where are my son's old ones there? Ah, that's better. The other ones run out of power. They don't seem to be lasting any time at all these days.
See, you need what you need is cheap ones from Temu. These €7. They've been going.
These ones were second hand from CEX.
Right.
In I don't know if they have them in Spain, but they've got loads of them in Ireland, and they do all kinds of tech there. So anyway, this one's working. I've got a buzz in that here. Never mind. I think I need my wax cleaning out. So number 2 question is, I've still got a green card, the green floppy card. Can I still swap it? You were talking about that a minute ago.
Yes, you can. Yeah, in theory, again, you can. Now, you really should have swapped it a lot earlier. I think it's because you're coming up to the 5-year period. I imagine where you should have done it, swapped it for a permanent one anyway. I would be running to the police station as quickly as possible and getting that swapped as soon as possible to mitigate any liability that if they go through the immigration files and go, hang on a minute, he hasn't updated this for a permanent one, then you get kicked off the system, because the moment you get kicked off the system, then that would, and you are living in Spain, and you would have to reapply with the withdrawal agreement, which is extremely hard to do now all these years on. So, albeit the door is still open to do that, I would be now running to exchange that as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. And the final question on this section is, what tax do I use for my renewal?
It's the 790.012, and you pay the European rate of €12. There isn't actually anything that states that it's a withdrawal agreement. It's the €12 European tax that you use for that.
Okay, yeah, that's an easy one. Let's have a look for some more questions on the live chat. And by the way, if you have any more questions, we're getting towards the end of the show, so do get them in there now. Because there is a little bit of a delay, 23 seconds delay before we get the questions. So we want to answer all of those. So do that now. George Wood says we've just received our NLV from Edinburgh and it only took 2 weeks. That's good to know. Thank you. And Jason said, any future show plans for care homes in Spain? Now, I mentioned this on last week's show, while Antonio Hestor was on, and he did say that he knew someone who would probably like to come on the show. So I'm going to investigate that. I think I did ask him, or I'll send him another email anyway, or another WhatsApp message, and see if we can sort that one out, because it has been difficult for me to find someone. So question from me too. Do you know anybody, by the way, Chris? Care homes person?
Not who actually runs. I know Karen from Abbey Care. I've been trying to nail her down actually, because we needed her over Christmas, unfortunately, for a client. But that's it really. I don't know anybody else.
Does she go to the Business First Fuengirola?
Yes. Yeah.
She does. Well, if she's there on Tuesday.
Karen was our client. And we did her card, and we did her family members, and we did her car, and then she set up a business, and that's when I invited her to say, well, if you set up a business, come down to our networking group, and she's been there ever since. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I'm heading down there on Tuesday, so I will ask if she's there.
You'll see Lara. I won't be there, but you'll see Lara, so that'd be nice. Lovely.
Yes. Me too, saying, do you lose your UK passport if you become a Spanish citizen? I think I've answered this question on Facebook as well. Your UK passport doesn't get cancelled by the UK by having a Spanish passport, but it's inadvisable to use it. In fact, if Spain finds out that you've used your UK passport, then you might lose your Spanish one, which would be a shame, because it takes you a little while to get the Spanish passport. Does that fit in with what you know, Chris?
There's no convenio between the two countries for dual nationality. So yeah, in theory, your British passport, you are supposed to inform the authorities in the UK that you've now got a Spanish passport. So yeah, when you lose it, you are supposed to inform them, because there's no dual nationality like there is between Ireland and the UK, for example. So yeah, in theory, yeah, you do.
Yeah, but the UK don't mind so much, do they? If you've got another passport, but Spain are a lot tighter on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Okay. So yeah, we've not got time for the argument today, which is a shame. We were going to talk about our favourite festivals or favourite celebrations in Spain, but I think we'll leave that to the next time.
Yeah.
Yes. So I hope you've enjoyed the show. I'm sure you have. Click on the like button and tell us why. And don't forget to subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. And join me and Chris every 2 weeks. Well, apart from 2 weeks' time, as Chris said earlier.
Yeah, we'll need to chat about that. Sorry, it's been such a hectic week. It only came about this week when I'm going to be away. So we'll need to work out when I'm on again, won't we?
Yeah, yeah. All of the other weeks, and well, yeah, we'll talk about it afterwards because it's, yeah, it'll either need swapping around, or I'll just do a news show, or
Yeah, they're very good.
I'll replace you with a cardboard cutout and just answer the questions myself. There we go.
I'll send you a T-shirt. On. You put a T-shirt and a cardboard cutout, and that'll be fun.
Yeah. Nobody will notice. I'll just dress up as you, and yeah, find a way.
Who are we sending the goodie bag to? Let's not forget the goodie bag.
Oh, the goodie bag. Yeah, I think we forgot.
We forgot last time. Yeah,
we did. So, who do we send it to? Who's still on? That's Mad David's gone, so it can't be him. Let us see. So there's Paul Cook, El Davido. We could do El Davido because he did the thing about registering as a Mrs. and having a mammogram. That sounds like
that was quite funny.
Yeah. So El Davido, if you're still here, then get in touch with Chris. What's the email address? Or you can do it via your website, I suppose.
Yeah, Chris at upsticks.es. They'll just drop me an email there, Chris at upsticks.es.
Yes, brilliant. Make sure you put your address on there.
Or if you can also email TIE, which is easier to remember, upsticks.es.
Brilliant. So just the one, or are we going to do a couple?
Yeah, we can do a couple. Yeah, we're happy. We're running out of merch now. We've got to get some more printed out. I've got a list of some stuff that we're going to do together as well, but I just haven't got around to it yet. But yeah, let's get it out there. I like getting the merch out there. It's a good idea. All
absolutely.
good to
Did you get? Have you got those stickers that I did as well?
Yeah, well, we haven't got them yet, but they're all placed. But they're actually sat in my basket at the moment because as I was going through, I was like, oh, we need new folders. And then James was like, oh, we need this. And I was like, oh, now I need this. And Lara was like, I need this for Upsticks Drive. So it's all sat there accumulating at the moment. There's a few things I need to finish off. So if I get it done next week, it'll be with me by the middle of the month.
Brilliant. And then we can give those ones out as well in the pack. Let's see who else hasn't had. So Yogi's had one, has he?
I think so. I don't know. That's just Yogi. If not, I'll prepare one for when you come over and leave it in the office for you.
Yeah, I'll just leave it with me. Yeah, send it with Lara on Tuesday. Yeah. Okay. So Yogi, if you're still on, you're probably on your treadmill doing some running in the gym. This is normally what happens at this time of the morning. And yeah, so yeah, I'll leave it at that. And if Yogi's already had one, then we'll find somebody else separate, and we'll try and get in touch with you. So sign up to U2 Spain's Facebook community, and then we can get in touch with you that way. Lovely. Okay. So, well, that is all we have time for. I'll tell you in a moment who your special guest will be next week. I did mention it earlier, but I'll remind you. But for now, let's give Chris a big virtual kiss and a hug and say goodbye for now. And I will see you soon.
Cheers, guys.
There we go. So, yes, next week's show, it's time for our quarterly visit from our favourite financial advisor, Lucia Melgarejo from Black Tower, and she'll be updating us on the latest developments in the financial world and how they relate to you. Yes, you up there. That's who I'm talking to. So join the Facebook group if you haven't already, because you can ask questions in advance on there and be a part of the show whether you're watching live or not. But watch it if you can, then you can respond and wave and feel that you're even more a part of it. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us. Let's see if there's any more comments come in. There have been a few dropping in. Oh, Shirley Rose says me. Tell you what then, Shirley, send your details to Chris at the email address that he mentioned. And yes, for putting your hand up, you get a prize. Big Squirrel says, once I'm registered as a de facto couple in GC, what's the procedure for getting residency as a non-EU citizen? Yeah, I tell you what, I'm just going to take a picture of that and we will get that answered. Join the YouTube community and we will answer that on there. Okay, thanks, Big Squirrel. And Yogi's got the thumbs up, he's here. So Jason says thank you, see you next week. Shirley says thank you. And yes, so make sure you hit the like button before you go, and also subscribe. And thank you to the people have hovered over the QR code and hopefully made a donation there if anybody else wants to do that. And I will see you either on the midweek video on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Spanish time, or I usually say, or the vlog on Still Alive on Friday evening at 6, but I am planning on moving that onto the short videos onto YouTube Spain. So I'll make an announcement during the week about what that's all about, because it's going to be about me getting around and introducing you to places in Spain or to anything else that inspires you about being here. Or I'll see you, of course, live on Saturday mornings at our regular time of 9 o'clock if you're in the UK, or 10 o'clock if you're in Spain or Central Europe. And that is all for this week. Somebody pass around the non-lucrative visa cookies, please. Don't hog them. Peace and love, peas and fluff. And here's one final message from all the voices in my head here at U2 Spain. Ta-ta.
Wave goodbye, lads. Bye. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Peace and love. Peas and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. One more cosmic dance? All right, then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing. Oh, I'm all a quiver. Let's dance.